to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Today, Shannon Claire joins me, and she is here to share the tips and the strategies that she's used to build her Instagram following to over 13,000. What I loved is that she said that she's actually getting 2 to 4 leads per week through Instagram. That's pretty awesome. Shannon Claire is an interior designer and stylist based in Washington, D.C. She offers full-service interior design by the hour. She does e-design projects for clients who are not local. She also does event and space styling. Shannon has been featured in HGTV Magazine, Domino, The Washington Post, Buzzfeed, The Everygirl, Glitter Guide, Charlotte Observer, CNN, Forbes, Style Me Pretty, House Beautiful Magazine, and Style at Home Magazine. This is a good show today with all kinds of tips and strategies for growing your IG following. I'll caution you, Shannon says right off the bat, the very first thing that you have to address before attempting to grow your following is to identify what your brand looks like in a photo. Okay, meaning when you post a photo, it looks like you. Your followers see it and know it's probably one of your photos. So spend some time after listening to Shannon on what does this mean for you if you haven't already established this identifier for your Instagram, okay? And I'm going to share with you in my summary later what I think you really also have to do before setting time aside out of your day to grow your following. Before we get started, a quick thank you to my sponsor, Camp Chroma. Did you know you could measure color? I mean, you take measurements for everything else in the design plan, like the window treatments and the furniture, so why not color too? Quantifying how color perceives sounds like it would be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Learn all about this simple data-based approach to architectural color design at Camp Chroma. Camp Chroma is an online, on-demand color training program for professionals like you. Go to campchroma.com for information and to enroll. All right, let's meet Shannon. Hi, Shannon. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Well, I have to say, you know, a lot at this point in the podcast, thankfully, a lot of people are pitching me and, you know, expressing to me what their superpower is and saying I'd love to share it with my colleagues. But I am still on the troll out there looking for designers. And you are one of the designers that I came across on Instagram. And I just thought, I like this kid. Let's see. And
that is amazing to hear. I really like to hear that.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you accepted my invitation to be on the show.
Of course.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about that Instagram feed of yours. So
Great.
You are, I'll just say, you're in business about 6 years at this point. And tell me first, when did you start the Instagram?
I started the Instagram when Instagram came out. When I first started blogging and first started my business, Instagram was not a thing. And I kind of jumped on the bandwagon along with everyone else when it first came out, not really knowing what it was going to be, not really knowing what it was. I don't even remember what year it started. It seems like I don't remember life before Instagram at this point.
And that's so funny because I have no idea when Instagram started either. Isn't that
really?
It does just feel like, wasn't it always there?
It does feel like it was always there.
I don't know about that. That's so funny. If I can do two things at once, I'll Google it while we're talking.
And, now that I think about it, maybe it was there when I first started and I just can't remember using it for my business. And maybe that's why I don't have that connect there.
Okay, here it is. October 6th, 2010.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. Yeah, I wasn't aware of it in 2010. I can tell you that.
I think it was just a bunch of really bad pictures of people's food at that point.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so here we are, and you have a really beautiful feed. And
Thank you.
Yeah, so I wanted to pick it apart a little bit. It's one thing, I can always reach out to the experts that study marketing and Instagram and ask them for their tips. But I think sometimes it's really helpful to just get it from a bootstrapper like yourself, who it is not her career to be an Instagram marketer, but has really utilized this tool in a really terrific way. So what do you say? Like, pretend it's me and you in a room and not 5,000 other people listening to us. And I said, Shannon, I have about 300 or 400 followers, 300 of them are my friends and family and 20 are other people. What's the first thing that I want to think about if I want to, as an interior designer, start to take my Instagram seriously?
That is the best question that you can ask yourself, first of all. So you've already started off on the right foot by asking that question. I wish that someone had told me these things when I first started using my Instagram account for myself, and then also started using it for my business as well, because it can be really hard to make that switch from using it maybe as a personal or a social thing for your friends and your family to using it as something that can really funnel back into your business. But I would say that the thing that I wish that I knew, and my number one tip for other people who are trying to make that switch, is to really identify what your brand looks like. Really try to visualize what it looks like on paper, literally in a photo, and then use that filter, those colors, that content, and really be cutthroat about what you post and stick to it, so that it becomes easily identifiable as something that you have created, a project that you have done, or a photo that you have taken, just so that it's identifiable to other people, so they know, hey, that's a picture that Luann took, so they know immediately.
Okay. So in your case, if we look at your Instagram, when we talk about, and your Instagram for our buddies listening is Shannon Claire. Okay.
Yes.
And so when we look at your Instagram, what I first notice is pink. I first noticed, right? I get this feeling of softness and of pink, despite what the individual picture is. And of course, that's what you're expressing to us, that this is intentional.
Correct. Yes. And, that was a decision that I made that I really kind of went back and forth on. And it sounds so silly to say that I sat around and I thought about my pink filter on my Instagram photos. But really, it's an important thing if you're looking at it from that perspective. And, some of my concerns were, I was worried about turning people off. If, someone had like a super masculine style, maybe they would be turned off from hiring me if they see this kind of feminine bent that I have on my Instagram page. But I really haven't seen any negatives from it. I have just seen really great feedback, heard really great feedback. And I have gotten many clients from my Instagram page as well. And those clients themselves haven't even necessarily had as feminine of a personal style as I do. So I don't think that it has scared anyone off, this kind of pink frothy world that I've created on Instagram. So
Okay.
That's good news so far.
Right. Okay. And so a couple of questions about the photos themselves in more depth here.
Sure.
So for instance, there is a picture of a brick wall that happens to be pink with a pink popsicle in front of it. That looks like a real picture of you holding a popsicle, right?
Yes, that is.
And was the wall actually pink brick, and that would happen to be a coincidence? You're like, holy moly, that's my brand color? Or did you do a filter to make that wall pink?
That is a really good question. Actually, this is kind of the perfect Bermuda Triangle of pink things happening. I happened to have a I promise you, grapefruit popsicle, walking down the street next to a pink house with hot pink nail polish on, and I forced my husband to stand there and take photos of it. It
Take
was not
20
planned.
to get the right one, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, he loves it. He's not great at it. Sorry if you're listening, Nicholas. I'm sorry, but he's not a fan of that. But no, that just happened to be a coincidence, and it was too good to be true.
Yes, you just like, we can't walk by this. Okay,
right.
I have a couple more questions about the post, and
Sure.
you guys listening, you'll have to go home when you're done running and listen to the show again and look at the pictures. There's a picture that has a light fixture, and it says at One Room Challenge, Libby living colorfully apartment, got a little bit of jewelry. So, but the wall is pink. Is that again a coincidence, or are you like, where do you find pink walls?
I promise I'm not, painting everyone's wall pink and walking around the city just in search of pink brick walls. No, those walls were actually pink. And this is a great question, because this kind of peek that you see into my business and the projects that I do on Instagram, from the creator's standpoint, am only sharing things that fit into this aesthetic that I've created on Instagram. So this project happens to have pink walls. That brick house, that townhouse, happened to have pink brick on it. I walked by 200 that didn't. I just happened to take a picture and share the one that did. Most of my projects do not have pink walls in them, but I'm sharing this and kind of filtering it and editing it so that it fits in with this cohesive look that I have decided to run with for my Instagram aesthetic.
Okay.
So that really kind of narrows it down. And I think that's what I was worried about people thinking, potential clients, if they visited my Instagram page, I was worried that they were thinking that everything that I did in my life was pink. And that's just not true. And so I tried to have like a really good representation of other projects on my portfolio on my website. But this overall, it's meant to evoke a certain feeling more than, hey, hire me and I'm going to paint your entire house pink sort of thing.
Okay. And so that's a valid thing, but you're expressing how it has not occurred because let's see, if I look at your feed, Shannon, there is a point where we see you intentionally make the change. And that point is when, Belgium probably doesn't count. Let's see. That point is about Halloween of last year, maybe last fall of 2017. It looks like you consciously made a change. And so the thing is, what do I know from nothing? I thought the feed looked great beforehand. However, I can see this cohesiveness. That is the right word to use. And so for our friends listening, if you are struggling with your Instagram feed and you are hearing people like Shannon say to us constantly to curate your feed, to express your brand, this is a perfect feed to see the before and after of. Because the before feed from a designer standpoint is beautiful, but there is something about this after with this whole filter and pink thing going that just draws you in.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the goal. And, the kind of wake up point that I had was when I was working with a fantastic graphic designer and a brand creator, Jenny Rose from Jenny Rose Creative. And she and I worked together to do a rebrand for my business and for my website. And when you have to sit down and think really, really hard about your brand and what you want that visual face, that virtual face to be to the world, it really helps you narrow your scope of how you want to present yourself, the things that you like, and how you want your kind of digital presence to look. And so taking a really hard look at my brand and the things that I like and infusing this kind of personal style that I have as Shannon Claire with the business front of Shannon Claire Interiors was really useful. And once we came up with a brand new logo and I had a website, and I knew that from that point on, I wanted all of the photos that I shared on Instagram to kind of fall in line with that. So it all was cohesive across all fronts of my brand. And I did that in November of last year. And since then, I have just, tried really hard to stick to it. And I think that there are some days when I think, this photo, I really don't want to post another pink photo, and I do it anyway, and it performs really great. And then I'm glad that I did. And, it all seems to tie together. And at the end of the day, I'm really happy with how it looks.
Right, right. And so let's take a moment to just say, the obvious is that when you switched from presenting the work exactly the way it was and not going out of your way to put a little pink candle or something in it and a filter over it, and you switched to the other, you did not lose business. You did not have people say, oh, well, I was going to call on you, but you're the pink girl now, so I guess I might want my house to look pink.
Right. No, I think my business and my client inquiries from Instagram have actually increased. And I think that's due to several different things that I've done in addition to kind of filtering it and making it all look cohesive. But I also have gained, I would say, from when I first, if we're going to talk numbers, let's see, in October, November last year, I think I had about 7,500 to 8,000 followers. And I now am at 13, which is not a large following by any means on Instagram with these, people who have hundreds of thousands of followers. But in that short amount of time was a pretty big jump for me. And I saw the benefits of really dedicating myself to this particular aesthetic and style and the kind of content that I was posting.
Wow. And in order to stay within this aesthetic, because you said, even though you might have just finished photographing a project, if it doesn't fit this look, it goes on the website in the portfolio, but it does not go on the feed. So that means it seems like some of these are other people's projects. And so you are searching the web or Instagram for other people that have, this aesthetic, and then you're tagging them and stuff.
So that's a really good question. And the answer, I guess the long and the short answer to that is no. These are actually all of my photos of either my house or my projects, things that I've done. And I think that, when I said that I don't post all of the photos from all of my projects, might be a little misleading, because there's always some nook or some room or something that really does fit in with my aesthetic, because I feel like I am at a point now, right? It's my aesthetic. I'm at a point now where people hire me for that aesthetic. And so most of my clients do have spaces in their home that I have designed that, fit into this. They might not be as feminine. They might not be as, flower filled, but they are, in some form or another fit into that aesthetic. And that's a really interesting point that you brought up. There are a lot of designers on Instagram who share other designers' work. And I think, with proper credit and credit to the photographer, that's a great thing to do. But that's just a decision that I made, not to share other people's work and to only share my own. Okay.
So I think that I saw something that I thought, like this one picture with the wallpaper, the flower wallpaper behind the bed, it says, at Libby living colorfully. I just kind of thought that maybe I read the caption too quickly. I thought you were tagging her as her work. Okay.
Oh, so that's her room. That's my client and my friend. That's her room that I designed for her.
Understood. Okay. All right. So I have to say, I think this is worth everyone's time to, if you're having a struggle with Instagram and identifying your brand and really understanding the difference, is to look at Shannon's feed. And I'll just share with you guys that I just was telling Shannon, as the time that we're recording this, it's the middle of July. And by the time you hear this, it's probably a month later. But my Instagram feed for Luann Nigara just changed about 2.5 weeks ago, because my daughter, who's working for me now, took it over, the pictures and the posting and all of that stuff, right? I'm still in there talking to you guys. Don't worry about that. And I was just sharing with Shannon that about 2 weeks ago, she started putting this green filter on everything. And of course, I had not met Shannon yet, and I had not taken notice that this is happening in Instagram. And when I saw your feed, Shannon, I saw that I liked it, but I don't think I took it a level deeper that, it all has pink. Like I'm, subconsciously, right?
Right.
But anyway, but not consciously. And, after like 2.5 weeks, I said to her, I'm not loving this film, this green thing, this tint. I said, everybody looks jaundiced, and my poor kid looks at me, and she says to me, You do know that we actually got a compliment on your Instagram feed just today saying how much nicer it looks. I'm like, oh.
Which is the best feedback that you can get.
Right. Really. And so now I really am looking at yours and seeing the before and after. And I have to say, that's why I'm making a point of this, is because if you listen to the show regularly, when people know what they're doing, I try to trust in it that they know what they're doing. And I know that my daughter knows what she's doing with this, right? But there's still this part of me. It's like, no, that's weird. I don't like that. And this is a perfect example of, see, when I looked at my previous feed, I didn't, really think it looked so amazing. I mean, I'm not a designer. Every picture isn't designery, right? So it's hard to make everything look gorgeous, right? But with your feed, it's so easy to see the before and after, and really how much prettier and more professional it looks with the way you're doing it now.
Good, so, great, yeah, thank you.
So that's why I really hammer on this whole section, because I think it's very helpful to see. It was helpful for me, so I'm assuming it'll be helpful for someone else. So, okay, so here we are. So identify your brand and translate that into photos. Is it as simple, Shannon, as okay, pink's my color, like me, green is my color, a podcast green, right? Or what are we going to have? Everybody's feed out there with a color tint, and that makes us all amazing? Like, it's
right.
More than that, right? What else happens?
Absolutely.
In that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is almost 90% other things and 10% the kind of filter that you put on your photos, along with this style of the kind of aesthetic and the colors that I decided to include. I chose pink, not because I am, if you knew me in real life, I wear like black only. So it's a big change. I do like pink. I think that maybe looking at Instagram, it kind of skews how much I like pink a little bit, but it's just a color that maybe you can pick out as a designer, or maybe you're trying to start to curate a kind of community on your Instagram page, something that you lean towards, something that you think is pretty, something that gives you a feeling, and run with that. But I think aside from the look of the photos, the intention of the photos is really important. I decided that, I can have a design business and I can have an Instagram page, and they can be two separate things that I dedicate time to. Or I can have a design business with an Instagram page that funnels everything back into the design business, which is my ultimate goal, and, what I do full time and the end game, essentially.
Right.
And so everything that I put on Instagram, I want to kind of hark back to the fact that I am a designer. So even the subtle things, something little like, I live and work in Washington, D.C. I am trying to get clients who live and work in Washington, D.C. And so I like to take photos of, D.C. landmarks and include those on my Instagram feed as a reminder that, hey, I am in D.C. If someone is just scrolling through Instagram, they land on my page, they see that I'm an interior designer. I want to have these kind of landmarks, these visual landmarks on my Instagram feed that let them know that I am in D.C. And if you're looking at my Instagram feed, one of my recent photos is of a ceiling in Union Station, which is a large train station here in DC that's easily recognizable for anyone who lives here. So it fits into the style and the aesthetic of what I'm going for the feed, but it also lets people know that I am in DC.
That's smart. Instead of just what we've heard before on the show is to use geotags, right? But not everybody searches by tags. Sometimes they just look at what comes up in front of them on their feed. I like that. Very smart.
Right. Yeah, I think that's geotags are great. I would say that there are 3 things that you would need to do to make sure that you are reaching out to the people in your area. The first one is sharing photos of things that, local potential clients would recognize. The second thing is using those geotags on your photo. Maybe you've taken a picture of a project. You can still geotag it with the city that you're in so people know. That's the first thing that I look at when I look at a picture. I don't know what it is. I look at the geotag. I don't necessarily click on it, but it will let me know where that photo was taken.
Right.
And then the third thing I would say is to use a specific hashtag for your business, but also go one step further. And I use the hashtag Washington, D.C. interior designer. And I have found that several people have found me through that hashtag. Maybe they're searching it on Google. Google is going to rank a hashtag higher if it's been used more often in its search. So people can also find it that way, even if they're not searching on Instagram. Okay. And that can be, you can do hashtag LA interior designer, hashtag NYC interior designer, hashtag Northern Michigan interior designer, wherever you are, and just have people find you specifically. So I think those 3 things are really important to do to let people know where you are, more so than just being a designer with pretty pictures on Instagram.
Okay. And do you also take the time to do hashtag Washington, D.C. interiors, hashtag Washington, D.C. home decor, or do you just do your business in that one and then whatever might pertain to the photo?
I tend to switch it up, and this is something that, if there are any really dedicated Instagrammers out there, they know how difficult this has been with Instagram kind of changing the algorithm recently, based on what auto-populates in searches. There's something called shadow banning, which if you use a hashtag too often, it actually blocks you from showing up in search results.
For crying out loud.
They're really trying to make it as difficult as possible.
Like, why? Why should we not find what we want to find? What if we want to find that every day?
It's very frustrating. And I think what they're trying to do is crack down on these kind of spammy accounts. And so I understand it from that perspective.
I see. Okay, so an automated yada, yada.
Right.
Okay, all right.
They want to make sure that you're not, a bot who's trying to sell you things. I don't know what bots do other than that. But so I think I understand it from that perspective, but it's also very frustrating as someone who's trying to get their work out there and trying to market themselves on a platform like Instagram.
Okay, so you're saying switch up the hashtags. Don't use the same Washington, D.C. interior designer every day.
Right, and you don't have to be uber specific with each hashtag either. I like to use hashtag Washington, D.C. Or hashtag interior inspo is a really popular hashtag. It's good to search, and it's good for people to find you who are interested in interior design. And then I also like to look into and try to find and use local community hashtags, whether it's for your city or maybe there's a blogger who has created a hashtag with their feature that you can use too, and people can search you that way. One of the things that I use here in DC is hashtag #ACreativeDC, and it helps a lot of creative people, artists and photographers and designers and things like that share their work with this hashtag. But then I find that people find me through that as well, and I've gotten several clients through the kind of targeted specific city hashtags that I use.
Okay. And do we have a whole strategy on, is there, okay, well, before I go to the strategy on the liking and the following and the commenting, are there more strategies and tips that relate to literally our posts and how to post them? I mean, you've given very specific things, so I'm happy about it. So here's what we're going to say. We're going to say identify your brand and figure out how to translate it into photos, okay? We said that you want to use visual landmarks of the city and the area that you're in so that even without having to say this is Washington, D.C. or searching that hashtag, your local people will, if you're in New York City, recognize the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty, and then use a specific hashtag for your specific business and one more. So Washington, D.C. interior design, and then local community hashtags. And I guess that's a matter of sitting and spending some time searching and researching hashtags that might be something in your city, and then seeing which ones are that fit they don't have to fit your brand, right? Do they have to just fit who your target client is who they have to fit, right?
I would say both. I would say that you don't have to commit to one or the other, but you can also, I think, include up to 30 hashtags. Okay. And I use, I try to hedge my bets as much as I can and use what I can. And honestly, sometimes at the end of the day, I think some people out there would say that it's a crapshoot, that Instagram changes the algorithm so much and you don't really know exactly how some people found you. So you kind of have to have a little bit of a trial and error in what you're posting and the hashtags that you're using. And if those geotags that you're using are getting you, traffic, whether you're geotagging maybe your city and maybe you need to narrow it down to the neighborhood that you're in or something like that. So I would say definitely use, and every market is different, I would think. So use some trial and error there when you're posting to see what works for you.
Okay. And then how about the like, the follow, the comments? What's your feeling on all of that?
So I think that with the algorithm changing so much, they are really making it difficult for content creators to gain a large following, or I would say it's more difficult than it used to be. And with the popularity of Instagram stories now, I think that when people log into Instagram and they see the stories, the videos at the top of their feed, it's very easy for them just to click through and watch video after video after video and never actually scroll down and look at the actual feed. So everyone who was trying, to get a following or to get clients or to run a business through Instagram has seen a hit in their engagement on their feed. I get much fewer likes and comments on my photos than I used to before because people just aren't seeing them. But I would say that the most important thing outside of, the number of people who actually follow you and people who like your photo is the most important thing is having an engaged following. If you get a lot of comments and people asking you questions, if you get a lot of messages on your stories, that is what's really important. You're trying to really filter out, the number of people that you have following you and really get the quality of people that are following you that you're looking for. I get so many more DMs or messages on Instagram on a daily basis than I do comments. And those are the kind of people who are really interested in me, in my design business, and what I do, and just starting a relationship, which is much more valuable than having 10 extra likes on a photo.
Okay.
So really kind of curating that community and building that engagement. And that can be by following designers that you like, by commenting on their photos, by sending them messages, by replying to their Instagram stories, and just saying hi, letting them know that you see them. They will often follow you. You can start a relationship. And like we talked about, you can have, internet friends, which can be really creepy, but also very valuable, and just kind of build a community. And the more engaged that community is, the better it's going to be for you in the long run.
And so in that whole building community engagement, do you find that most of your engagement that you are receiving in your stories or on your feed is coming from other designers or coming from consumers?
I would say that it is probably 50-50. I think that it seemed like for a long time it was only bloggers and designers who were kind of in a circle commenting and liking and following people's Instagrams. And it kind of felt like you were talking into an echo chamber.
Right.
But the more that you talk about yourself, the more that you share things that are not just business related, if you present yourself as a person that people feel like they know and understand, then they will engage with you more often. And along with changing the look of my Instagram feed and being more specific about the city that I post from, I also have tried to be much more personal with my captions, and, share some funny stories and tidbits from my day and have my audience feel like they know me as a person. And I think that's been invaluable. I think it was really easy before for me to post a photo of a project and say, here is a recent dining room that I designed. And then, say photo by this person and, dining room table by this person, and just have it be kind of this canned response that you would see maybe in a design magazine or something like that.
Right.
But instead I would try to come up with a witty caption or tell a funny story about what happened on the install day, or, something that was going on with my day that had nothing to do with that photo, and then say, anyway, here's a really pretty picture of a dining room I designed recently.
Oh,
almost
all
as
that
if,
in your caption. We're not talking stories now. We're talking captions.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. in the caption of your photo, so that when people see it, they feel like not only do they get a sense of your style as a designer through the photo itself, but they also get a sense of you and who you are through the caption. I think that Orlando Soria is one of the
Is he the best?
Funny. Isn't he just the best? I don't know a single person that doesn't want to be his best friend.
Oh my God. I love him. He drives me nuts. He's so funny. He's somebody else too that what's funny is I don't really watch the stories. I said this on his show. I don't really watch the stories. And the only time I do is if I open my phone and one of the first 2 or 3 that I can see is somebody I know. And then I feel like, and when I say I know, like we said, internet know, right?
Right.
You know, somebody I've interviewed or somebody that I've met at an event. And I'll be like, oh, you know, what's Dwell by Cheryl doing today? And I'll look, or Erica Ward, what she's doing, right? Yes. And what happens is, that, like I said this on his show, they're like Netflix. It's like, okay, boom, next one's coming on. And then what happens is I will end up watching, because then I get sucked in. I found that I will get sucked in until the first like sponsored post by Citibank. It's like, okay, turn it off. And so if you're after Citibank, I'm not following, right? But what happened is one time Orlando was in there and I couldn't believe it. I had no idea who he was, and I got sucked right into his world, and I started watching his stories every day. And then one day I just, emailed him. I'm like, would you come on the show? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. He's so funny.
I know.
You feel like he's just being very authentic, and people follow him for his personality just as much as they follow him for his designs. So I feel like that's something that people can relate to. And I really he was a huge influence on it. So Orlando, if you're listening, you can call me anytime.
Yeah.
But I really feel like he let me know that it was okay to be funny or self-deprecating or witty, or however I wanted to present myself, I was allowed to do so because this was my platform. And it's just kind of refreshing to look at it that way, as opposed to feeling like you have to fit into a certain mold or follow these certain steps because it's a business. So it's just really refreshing. It takes a weight off of your shoulders to just kind of express who you are. And I feel like my engagement has gone way, way up. And it's funny because you and I were talking about this before, but you pointed out very astutely that I do not have many photos of myself on my Instagram page, which I, first of all, hate having my photo taken. And second of all, I'm just so goofy. I just can't do it and
You're
keep a straight
silly,
face.
Gorgeous.
But, I would say that also kind of ties into this. So I should take my own advice and post more pictures of my face on my feed. But I really do feel like people want to know who you are, what you're about, what your personality is like, because any designer out there who's listening knows that if you don't mesh well personality-wise with your client, it's a no-go from the start.
Right.
So you really want them to know who you are, what you're about, what you like, what you don't like, how sarcastic you are, that sort of thing from the beginning.
Well, and it's true. And I think that is the secret sauce in there is, and it's been said on the show before, but I feel like it's worth saying it again, is there is a fear. When you said, just be yourself, express who you are, it is your business, but it is your platform. And I think that if that's what it is, it's sort of like, well, I can't be my regular goofy self or my regular sarcastic self or my regular pink self, whatever it is, because then somebody isn't going to like it. And the thing to understand is, you're right, somebody isn't going to like it, but somebody else is. And I understand the rub with that. I understand that it's hard because, look, at our core, we all want to be liked by everyone. We don't want to have anybody say, that's weird, or that's stupid, or that's silly, or that's dumb. We want everybody to say, yeah, high five on that.
Right.
But, it's not going to happen. It's not realistic. And so what's better is to be, authentically you. And he really nails that. And you are nailing it as well. But that was the theme of his show in my mind. It was like, just do you.
Right. It's so true. It's so true. And it takes a really long time to learn that. I didn't do it for a very long time. And so it's been very freeing. And you're absolutely right. There's a saying, I don't remember who it is, that I think it goes something like, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the entire world, and there's still going to be somebody out there who doesn't like peaches.
Right.
So you shouldn't be looking at this as a way to appease everyone, because that is impossible. It's an impossible task. You're going to stress yourself out. You're not going to be true to yourself. And so just taking that off of the table really just lifts that burden, lets you create this space that is just really authentically you. And that, can really shine through in the kind of photos that you're taking, the way that those photos look, and what you say in the caption.
It sounds easy. I recognize for anybody who's sitting there saying, I don't know. I know it's not easy. It is. I 100% agree that it's not easy. As mentioned, that my daughter has taken over, the posts for the Instagram feed, and you'll notice that all of a sudden I miraculously have stories since she took it over. But 99% of them are pictures of stories, because I'm just looking at her like, nobody wants to see me do this. She's like, Mom, just go over there and sit by your podcast thing. And I'm like, why?
People really do love that behind the scenes. And I think maybe you're underestimating how nosy people can be.
Yes, it's true. And I've been fighting this for over a year. People have been telling me over a year on the show, experts who know exactly what they're talking about. And I keep going,
Right.
So this is a total do as I say, not as I do show. But that's why I'm expressing. I experience the resistance of it personally. And so if you are out there and you're listening and you have that experience of feeling resistant to it, I get it. I get it. Although I do acknowledge that person after person has come on the show, whether they are an actual marketing Instagram expert or a designer like Shannon, who are here to tell us that we got to get over ourselves and just be real.
It's so true. And really, if you just think about your end goal, and if your end goal is reaching more clients, getting more clients, say you have a quota, a number that you need to reach at the end of the year, this is one way that can make that happen, because it really is possible to find great clients through Instagram.
So let's talk about that. Let's get into that a little bit, because the truth is that in private conversations, whether they're at live events or coaching sessions or whatever, a lot of designers, a lot of our friends are struggling with feeling like the only people that are seeing, paying attention, and appreciating what they're doing on Instagram are other designer colleagues, and that not a lot is happening with the consumer and drawing them into their business. So what do you, on top of all of these things, okay, so you're doing all of these things, and that's all terrific advice, and I get that, but where's the switch when all of a sudden it starts to be the consumer, Shannon? How does that switch happen?
That's a good question. I don't think that there is one answer for that. I think that, the answer to that should be to just keep creating content, keep pushing it out there, and you build it, they will come kind of thing. So at some point, someone is going to take notice of it. And there are things that you can do along the way to kind of help that.
Okay.
And some of those things I would say are, you want to get your content out there past your own followers. And so if you look at it as maybe your followers are other designers or bloggers or friends and family, and you're trying to get past them and have your content seen and your work seen by other people, you need to get it featured and you need to get it out there. And so a great way to do that is to, share on Instagram stories, share that you have posted things recently, share what you're working on, because people can share your Instagram stories on their own Instagram stories. And that kind of doubles your audience if we're looking at it like in a truly pyramid scheme kind of sense. And without all of the negative connotations, I would say. But, say you take a photo of a project or something in your own house and you tag some of the brands that were used in your photo. Brands are constantly looking for content to share themselves with their items in it. And so I have gotten lots of followers, people who are interested in interior design. For example, when I share a picture that has a CB2 table in it, for example, I tag CB2 in it, and CB2 might share that photo, and I'll get lots of followers. I'll get people who are interested in design because they're already following CB2. And so that's just an example. You try to kind of multiply that by getting it out there. You can also talk to other designers. If you really feel like your only audience is just designers, they probably have a different following than you have. And so even if it's just a few people, you can talk to a designer about, maybe doing a feature on them. Maybe you share a photo of their recent work and say, hey, I just want to let you guys know about this designer, and here's what she's up to, and here's why she's great. And he or she can do that for you. And that is how you can also find more audience. And the more momentum that you have, the more momentum that you get. So the more followers that you're getting, the more people who are sharing your work, the more people want to follow you, and the more people want to share your work. So it just kind of expounds on itself and continues.
So when you talk about share and feature another designer, are you talking about two designers that know each other, whether it is through Instagram or internet or actually personal friends, having an offline conversation that says, okay, this week coming up, I'm going to share one of your things. I'll tag you, la, la, la. And then 2 weeks later, you do it for me? Or are you talking about just organically finding a designer's work that you like and we're sharing this to stories? It sounds like you're not sharing it to your own feed. I think I missed something in there.
No, you're absolutely right. Both of those things are correct. You can have a conversation in messages or by email with another designer and say, hey, this Sunday, let's share each other's work to our own audiences, whether that is on the feed or whether it's on Instagram stories.
Oh, either way is appropriate.
Either way. Yeah, either way works. And there are a lot of people who do like Friday follows, and it becomes a thing. Every Friday they feature someone new, but they have had an outside conversation with that person about this kind of reciprocation where I'll share you, you share me sort of thing.
Okay.
I found lots of people who I like to follow through that method. So that doesn't bother me. I think there are some people out there who probably wouldn't maybe they know what goes on behind the scenes, or, maybe they just don't like to see that. They're going to follow you for your work only. But, like we talked about, people are going to find a problem with everything. So this is something that you can do. And it also really helps you kind of build that community. And if you don't feel like you have those people to reach out to and say, hey, you want to do a swap? You can just kind of organically talk about other people, whether it's on your stories or on your Instagram feed. Because I have chosen to keep my Instagram feed all my work, I would talk about someone else on my Instagram stories, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I was about to ask that, and so that clears that up, yes.
Right, yeah. And in Instagram stories, and people who use this, I think, in general, the Instagram stories are a bit of a more casual approach to your business and your day-to-day life. People really like to see the hashtag real life behind the scenes work of, install days, what goes into an install day, what goes into the many, many hours of sitting at a computer and sourcing items or staring at fabric swatches or, just the behind the scenes of it. So the Instagram stories I see as a more casual approach to letting people know what goes into your business and what you do and who you are. Whereas the feed are more kind of staged, portfolio styled photos.
Right. Okay.
So that's the difference between the two. And I think that you can have a little bit more flexibility and fun with the Instagram stories.
Okay. And then how about the swap and the agreement for swap and even just the picking of somebody organically to share is all one section. But what about, do you spend any amount of time consciously liking other people's work and commenting on other people's work and feeds in order to grow your audience?
Yes, I do. And we can get really technical about that. And something that might be really helpful to the people who are listening is there are things called comment pods. And what they are essentially is, say you get 10 of your internet friends, your Instagram friends, whether you know them in real life or not, in a message. So you can kind of have like a group message on Instagram. And I have one that is specific to DC creators, and they are not all interior designers, but they're all people in the creative industry, whether they're artists or photographers or bloggers or that sort of thing. And what we do is we keep kind of a running thread of our messages, and we let this group specifically know when we've posted an image, because like I talked about before, because of Instagram stories, images that are posted to the feed get really pushed down. People aren't looking at them as much. They're not engaging as much. And in addition to the Instagram algorithm, it can be really hard for a photo that I post to just organically pop up in someone's Instagram feed.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is kind of counteract the algorithm. And as soon as I say, hey guys, I posted a photo, I send a message to them and say that exact same thing. I just posted a photo. And the people who are in that group will go over to my photo, they will like that photo, and they will comment on my photo. And the more engagement and activity you have on your photo in the first 24 hours of you posting it, pushes it up so that more people see it in the feed. So it sounds like a lot of work and it sounds more complicated than it is, but it's really just sending people a message saying, hey, I posted a photo. They go over to your photo, they like it, and they comment on it. These are people who you know in real life or are part of your circles who it would be a natural thing for them to like and comment on your photos anyway. It's not like you're asking complete strangers, or you would be asking complete strangers to comment who have nothing to do with your field or what you do. You want to find people who are interested and who would be organic followers who might not see your picture simply because Instagram and its algorithm.
Okay. So the thing with this is I have been part of comment pods before, and we all fizzled out for one reason or another, but I feel like somebody started to say that when you have, say, 12 people in the thing, the algorithm starts to figure out after a couple of months that your comments are the same 12 people, and it starts to figure out. And I also think that it was what just piqued me, how you said you were in a pod with DC creatives. You see, that feels a little bit more broad to me as opposed to 12 interior designers in the same pod, because I really think it did just get to the point where every single time I opened my Instagram, it was one of these 12 people's. Like, we literally, I think that the whole algorithm just got us all, tangled up in each other, and we're hardly seeing other people's stuff. Whereas, right. and we're all using similar hashtags, and we're all in the same industry. But I think there's value in doing it with non-competing but correlating industries.
Right. It's true. And what you're saying is also true in that, Instagram is constantly changing its algorithm to find out people who are doing this. So you're actively fighting against the problem and also adding to the problem.
Right.
And there are some people who just do not believe that comment pods are a good thing. They think that, they're unethical. It's the same as buying likes or followers, because it's not an organic thing that's happening. You're telling people that you've posted, you're having them go over to your photo, and then you're doing it in an effort to kind of beat the system here.
Right.
And I understand where they're coming from. I totally get it. But if you're doing it in a way where these people would have commented and liked your photo to begin with, and you're just kind of letting them know that you posted, then I don't see that there's anything wrong with it. But you're right. These things, I have many comment pods that have fizzled out just like you. Somebody starts a new one. You can have several going with different groups at one time. And, if you feel like that's all too much work, every time you log into Instagram, you have 37 notifications letting you know that other people have posted. It can be really exhausting. But that's just one of the ways that you can try to fight against this algorithm. I think the key here, and maybe you won't like this.
Okay.
But I think the key lies with Instagram stories.
You're
I'm
right.
I'm sorry to tell you that. I think that people they're so visual, and they want just a quick hit of, what's going on. And so they open Instagram and they watch the stories. And like you said, it's like binging Netflix. It will start the next episode for you. It just continues and continues. And it is very jarring when you get that ad there in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can get off now. It's like the train stopped. Oh, good, I can get off.
But, they're doing all of these things now where you can, if you have 10,000 followers or more, there is a swipe up feature where you can kind of guide people to your website. So every time I do a new blog post or add something to my portfolio, I have people swipe up and go to it. I feel like Instagram is going to change and make that available to everyone pretty soon. And I can see that being a really useful item for designers to use to kind of build back into their business, which is, their website and their real client projects that they have going on. But, it's very frustrating as a business owner and as a designer, whether you have a background in marketing or communications or not, you're kind of expected to do and be all of the things.
Absolutely. That's what I complain about all the time now.
Right. And every time you turn around, there's something new that's kind of added to that pile. So this is one of those things where, I don't dedicate as much time to Facebook, for example, or Twitter for my business. I know other designers who only use Facebook. And I'm not saying that Instagram is the best way to do it. It's just the way that has worked for me and how I have really just kind of found a groove with it and have finally figured out how to funnel everything back into the end goal, which is my design business.
How often, Shannon, would you say that you're getting a potential lead? I don't even care how many you convert to close at this point, but how often are you getting a potential client? Let me ask you two questions. How often do you get a consumer that will comment or DM you something beyond looks great?
So I have followers who have followed me for a while where we have kind of running conversations about things.
Okay.
I will maybe know the name of their cat and we'll talk back and forth about things like that on Instagram. But
so you're actually creating, like your husband calls it, internet friends, not just with designers, but with people, consumers.
Exactly. With people and with consumers. And they have, word of mouth.
Right.
So they can tell their friends, hey, I know this really great girl who's a designer, or I hope that's what they're saying. I don't know if that's what they're saying, but they can say that they know this girl on Instagram. And the reality of it is that is the thing now for people to say, oh, I know this girl on Instagram and you can hire her. Right. I would say that I get 2 to 4 Instagram specific leads a week.
Whoa. That are interested in your design services, not just about talking about their cat.
Yes. And those are either in the form of a DM or a message on Instagram itself, or a message on my website where they say, they take the time to go to my website and they say, hey, I found you on Instagram. I have a new townhouse, or I just moved into a new apartment, or I'm new to the city and I'm looking to, I have this project going on. And so I would say that it's definitely picked up recently in the past few months, but right now it's between 2 and 4 a week who are specifically reaching out to me because they saw me on Instagram.
And how many would you say, just as an average guess, are you converting to an actual consultation? Because maybe they come and, I don't know what your consultation fee is, but they thought it would be $40 and no, it's, whatever. How many are converting to a consultation?
Right. So I would say that a consultation. So one of the services that I offer is a consultation where it's just an upfront 90-minute in-person consultation. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. I can style your shelves for you. We can talk about paint colors. It can be the first meeting in a larger kind of renovation project. It can be whatever you want it to be. But I would say that, and I charge just a flat fee for that 90-minute consultation. I would say that the majority of people who reach out to me who do convert are only interested in that consultation.
Okay.
They are, they want somebody, maybe if they're moving into a smaller place, they don't have as large of a budget. They just want somebody to come over and give them, fresh eyes on their space. I think that with Instagram, you tend to have a younger user who's using Instagram, someone who's going to be swayed by a pretty photo, who's going to reach out to you, is going to be younger. They're not going to be living in a giant house. They are often single. Here in DC, the city is incredibly expensive, so they're likely living in a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment. So it was never going to be a huge project for me to begin with. But they are interested in having me come over for a consultation. And then I would say about 30 to 40% of those lead to once they have me over for a consultation, lead to like a full service design project that's on the smaller side often.
Okay. And do you mind sharing how much you charge for the consultation?
Sure. My consultation, 90 minutes, is $300. It's just a one-time fee, and I'm there for 90 minutes. And then I also go back home and put together a document that details and recaps all of the things that we talked about, some of my ideas for the next steps. And then I include some inspiration photos and kind of send it over to them as this PDF, as a guide, without giving too much information, in the hopes that they will still hire me for the rest of that project.
Right.
But it's a nice thing where they really feel like they've gotten their money's worth for an hour and a half long meeting.
Okay. And that makes it that makes a good point, I have to say, that depending on the level, like, look, we have Marie Flanagan out there that has an Instagram page, and we have Shay McGee with the Instagram page out there. That's a different thing. Okay. That's a different thing. They're not necessarily, they probably are getting clients, by the way, but it's different. It's just different. Okay. So, but for when we talk about normal, regular people and designers, to think about it in those terms, that you would be very happy and lucky, I'm sure, if you were getting 2 to 4 people converting to a consultation a week. But it makes the argument to have that service, to have that one-off service on your website clear, so that when you understand that if somebody comes and it's not clear, they may come and look and leave and think, oh, between that feed and this, there's nothing mentioned there. Maybe she's, too expensive and I can't afford her. And the truth is, there are people that are going to come and walk away from the 300. That's okay, because you're not going to do it for any less than that. But that ability to know that, hey, I can do that one-off $300 service. You know what? I'm going to treat myself. I love this girl on Instagram. She looks great. It would be so fun to meet her, and I can get help for an hour and a half. And I know that there is always going to be that 30% or so that's going to convert to a next time. And look, don't forget, these young people turn into grown-ups later. You know what I mean? Somebody when they're 25 or 30 years old is going to be 35 and married and have a house. So you build a relationship. So I think it's pretty cool. Very interesting. I'll tell you what, you've shared a ton of information with us today, Shannon. I can't thank you enough. I mean, it's just, it's different having the conversation, as I said at the top of the show, with an expert, because, there's value in it, no question, right? The Power Talk Friday experts are the best. But, here you are, like you said, you're a designer first, and you're trying to do these principles and work your way through it. And I do have to say, what is clear in everything that you shared with us is that you are intentionally doing it. I meet a lot of designers that really don't take their Instagram game seriously and then say, it does not work for me. And so my thing is always, look, if you're telling me that you are attacking it with a plan and a strategy and all of these things and it's not working, then we've got something wrong in the plan or the strategy. But if you're telling me you're just randomly putting pictures up, you're not paying attention to how it looks, what you're tagging, who you're associating with, who you're communicating with, well, then of course it's not working, because you don't have a plan. It's just like anything else. You have to know why you're doing it. So, and the thing is, it doesn't have to work. You don't have to do it. You see, I share this information because if you happen to feel that you'd like to spend your time building an Instagram following and having that funnel and lead to your interior design business, then we have people like Shannon to share their experience on how they did it. But I certainly don't think that every designer needs an Instagram feed. Do it the heck you want. Market the way you want. Right?
Whatever works for you.
Exactly. So, well, thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate it. So it's Shannon Claire on Instagram. Everybody follow her and tell her that you heard her on the show today, okay?
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be here. This is something that I could talk about for a very, very long time. So if anybody who's listening has questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. And yeah, good luck with it is what I would say.
Yeah, thank you for that offer. I bet you're going to get a lot of people messaging
I
you.
hope so. I look forward to it.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Shannon's top 2 tips were, as we mentioned at the top of the show, to identify your brand and what it looks like in pictures. And then her second tip was to be absolutely cutthroat about presenting only the photos that align and represent this exact idea of your brand. And I want to share with you the tip that I mentioned at the beginning of the show that's coming from me. Here it is. You don't have to build a huge Instagram following. Yep, that's my tip. You don't have to build an Instagram at all. How about that? You can walk away altogether if you don't like doing it and it's not your jam. I said it out loud. I know it's sacrilegious. I know. But I want to tell you, if you're not really enjoying it, then there are other ways for you to market your interior design firm, ways that you will enjoy or at least tolerate, right? And how about take me? I do Instagram every day. I don't do the stories. And we do the stories, right? But I don't go live in the stories like every single person suggests that we do. The designers like Shannon, the experts that we have, they all say that the engagement will go way up if I show up live. But guess what? I still don't do it. Why? Am I dumb? No. It's not in my non-negotiable list of things to do every day. It's not a priority. And so therefore, I don't bang myself up over the head on it. I do the things that are on my non-negotiable list, like getting this podcast out every single week and the gabillion steps that it takes to get it out the door on time at the best of my ability every week. So that's just it. If you love doing Instagram and you enjoy doing it and it's starting to work for you, meaning you're starting to get real engagement, conversations happening, then by all means, lean in and move it to that non-negotiable list each week. But then do it well. Then follow Shannon's advice and make it the best it can be by going down the list of the things that she says has worked for her. Okay. And I will also say, and just really point out that she did discuss how important engagement is. And I want to say, if you have 300 followers, but they are followers that are talking to you, followers that you have moved to your email list and that you are starting to market them throughout the year, then yes, by all means, keep doing Instagram. Think about it. We get so distracted by the huge numbers of social media now because it's so easy to see what everybody's doing. We think we need 10,000. Then we get 10,000. We think we need 100,000. But I want to ask you something. Just imagine this. Imagine that when you wake up every single morning and you open the front door to your home, your design studio, wherever it might be, there are 300 faces looking at you. 300 faces that are just waiting for you every single morning to tell them something about design, to share your tip of the day with them, to share with them how to style a bookcase. Would you look at them and say, you people aren't worth it. Never mind. I'm not going to give anything to you today. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow. Maybe I'll come back in a month. I don't know. Heck, bring 10,000 more people with you, and then I'll get serious about this. Right? It's just like everything else in this age of social media where we can all see what everything is going on. The chase for the numbers can easily skew our regard and our value for the people and the followers that we have. So if you like Instagram, do Instagram. But if you do Instagram, do it well and do it smart. Don't putz around wasting time with it. Have a plan and stick to it. All right, makes sense? Now, speaking of plans, who is planning to join me in my masterminds this September? Are you ready to get real these last 4 months of 2018? Are you ready for some game-changing ideas, some game-changing strategies, and the accountability to make them happen? If you are, head over to luannigara.com, click on the coaching tab, and you can get information on the different levels of masterminds. The groups are forming and the seats are limited. We have signups already. And I'm just going to say, if you haven't noticed it, I guess, if you haven't realized or noticed it by now, here are 2 insights that I'm going to share with you about me and my motivations. When I have a specific goal, which is to make a definable, actionable, transformational impact on your business, I'm always going to do it through a limited small group, just like the Mastermind and the Power Talk Friday tour, because I want to create an environment where I actually get to know you and your challenge, and I can actually help you break through and solve it, okay? And that only can happen in a small environment. So that's Masterminds and the Power Talk Friday tour coming up at High Point Market, Saturday, October 13th, all right? But then sometimes my goal is more just to wake you up, to shake you up, and to inspire you to take an action. And when that's my goal, I will do it through larger platforms like this podcast, like the speaking engagements that I do, and like the business column that I write for every issue of the Window Fashion Visions magazine. Okay, so both have their place. Small groups, large groups, small impact, big impact, right? Whatever it is. But understand that when I'm helping you, and my desire is to help you actually change something, create a big movement in your business, I'm going to do it in these small environments. So if you're interested, head over to luannenigara.com and click on that coaching tab. All right. Now, figure out what you need now. What kind of help do you need? And decide, all right? Make a decision to get what you need most to improve your business, and decide to do it. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannenigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.